Welcome to Advertising in IMC, Principles and Practice, Chapter 7, Beginning and Targeting the Audience. Let's get started. Part 2, Principle, Be True to Thy Brand and Thy Consumer. Key Objectives. Number 1, explain how the consumer decision process works. Number 2, describe the cultural, psychological, and behavioral influences on consumer responses to marketing communication. Number 3, discuss targeting and how it differs from segmenting. Number 4, list several characteristics that are used to segment markets and target customers. Although the U.S. culture seems to worship physical perfection, Dove is trying valiantly to broaden that definition. Is the definition of beauty universal? Does this message translate effectively to all women? Starting the conversation. Consider the new multicultural landscape of the United States as described in your textbook. With this in mind, how do you find prospects for your product, service, or brand? How do you initiate a conversation with them? In your opinion, does the above example show that Nestle understands people's needs and wants? And if so, how? What does the example say about finding the right prospect for a message at the right time? As you can see, this traditional model of brand decision-making is highly linear. Do you believe this model captures the process that consumers go through in the decision-making process? If not, what do you think is missing? How do consumers make brand decisions? Involvement means personal relevance. When purchase decisions entail social or financial risk, they are considered higher involvement. Purchases that involve little to no risk are considered lower involvement. A purchase may be low involvement or high involvement. In low involvement, there's little or no information search. Figure 7.1 shows low and high involvement decisions. The decision process for high involvement decisions involves all 5 stages, but low involvement decisions use just a few. What products have you purchased recently that could be considered low or high involvement? How does your decision process compare to these models? The path to a brand decision always depends on the type of product and the buying situation. It's important to note that a response may not begin with thinking about a product. Likewise, responses follow different routes to a decision. Brand planners need to understand that and how the decision process works for a product category. What influences consumer decisions? Consumer behavior describes how individuals and groups select, purchase, use, or dispose of products, and the needs and wants that motivate behaviors. Figure 7.2 shows influences on consumer decision making. They might include or start with psychological influences. This may go to social, cultural influences. At some point, there's consumer decision making. Behavioral influences may also influence consumer decision making. In your opinion, what is culture and what is cultural influences? Try to explain it in your own words. Norms are a culture's boundaries for proper behavior. Values are the source of norms, which represent underlying belief systems. This figure shows different cultural influences. It includes Rokeach's 18 terminal values. Some of these include true friendship, family security, inner harmony, a world at peace, social recognition, and even an exciting life. This chapter contains several examples in which major organizations made major branding mistakes in other countries. What are some cautions you might observe or measures you might take to reduce the chance of this happening to your company? Describe a few of the places in which you have worked. How would you describe their corporate culture? Uptight, polished, or laid back and casual? How did this affect the work that you did and the morale of your company? Social influences include income, wealth, education, occupational prestige, family prestige, the value of the home, and neighborhood. In this Scott's campaign, who is Billy? What kind of a social influence is he? In your opinion, is Billy a motivating character for the purchase of lawn products? Explain your thinking. Social influences. Working from this list, name and discuss a couple of the most important reference groups you've encountered in your life. Did any of them influence a brand or purchasing decision that you can recall? Other social influences. Brand communities. These are groups of people devoted to a particular brand. For consumers, reference groups provide information, serve as a means of personal comparison, and they do offer guidance. What can you tell about this person's career choice and interest from their bumper stickers? Have you ever wondered the same thing when looking at car bumpers on your own campus? What are some of your conclusions? What do they say about your fellow students and faculty as individuals and consumers? Household consists of all those who occupy a dwelling, related or not. Lifestyle reflects family situation, values, and income. Consider the above definition of family. Do you think it adequately captures what a family is? How has the definition of family evolved in the 21st century? What examples from your own life come to mind? Psychological influences, needs and wants. Needs are motivated by basic survival instincts. Wants are what we want, or what we desire. Susan Mendelssohn states, in some cases, we want things just for the sheer fun of newness. Think about how many pairs of shoes or the amount of clothes people have. Psychological influences, figure 7.3, Maslow's hierarchy of needs. This includes self-actualization, ego needs, belongingness, safety, and physiological. How could Maslow's hierarchy of needs be useful in planning an advertising campaign? Principle. An item we need is something we think is essential or necessary for our lives. An item we want is something we desire. Psychological influences. Motivations. People strive to reduce the tension between unfulfilled wants and needs. What are some of the ways they might go about doing this? What are some possible motives at work in this process? Ireland seeks to motivate you. This ad promotes an adventurous vacation in Ireland and suggests an ideal state that many consumers may feel the need to achieve. Psychological influences, motivations. A motive is an internal force that stimulates you to behave in a certain way. Satisfaction is the gap between our expectations of a product or experience and our actual experience with it. Dissonance. Cognitive dissonance refers to a conflict between thoughts. This creates a state of tension. Airborne knows what motivates travelers. Do you think it is effective to also feature the motivation of Airborne's creator? What might be the reason for doing so? Psychological influences, the influences on B2B decision making. There are many individuals involved, but a decision by a committee. Rational and quantitative criteria dominate, often based on specs to those who bid on a contract. Long time between initial contact and decision. Quality is key. Repeat purchases are based on performance. And personal selling is important. Tapping consumer motivations in a B2B setting. Trade shows are an important activity where B2B buyers and sellers can meet. This exhibit for Casio watches was part of the 2016 Consumer Electronics Show. How do we segment markets and target audiences? Segmenting means dividing the market into groups of people who have similar characteristics in certain key product areas. Market segmentation is an approach to more precisely match customer needs and wants with products. Niche markets are tighter subsegments of a more general market segment. Principle. Segmenting is efficient and cost-effective when it identifies those people who are in the market and also eliminates those who aren't. Segmentation strategies. Consider the meaning of niche market. What kinds of niche markets are you a member of? What makes it truly a niche market as opposed to just a market segment? Types of segmentation. Demographic segmentation, divided by age, gender, ethnicity, and income. Life stage segmentation, based on a stage in the consumer's life cycle. Geographic segmentation, it uses location as a defining variable. Psychographic segmentation is based on how people spend their money, their interests and opinions, and how they view themselves. Behavioral segmentation is based on product category and brand usage. And finally, values and benefits based segmentation is based on underlying values or consumer needs and problems. Figure 7.4 shows market segmentation approaches, which include by demographics, by life stage, by geographics, by psychographics, by behavioral characteristics, and by benefits sought. Targeting the best audiences. Through targeting, the organization can design specific communication strategies to match the audience's needs and wants and position the product in the most relevant way to match their interests. Targeting the best audiences. First, use segmentation characteristics that separate a group of prospective consumers. Then, add additional descriptive variables until an ideal consumer group is identified. And each time you add a variable, you narrow the market as you come closer to the ideal target audiences. Take a closer look at point 3 and consider the market for electric cars. Can you think of a descriptive audience variable that might be added to narrow the electric car market and come closer to your ideal target audience? Figure 7.5, narrowing the target. As descriptors are added to the identification of the target, the number in the middle of the target gets smaller. As this target is defined, the size of the group can be predicted. Profiling markets and target audiences. This Miss Clairol campaign appears as number 9 on Advertising Age's list of the top 100 campaigns in history. What lessons about market profiles and target audiences can a successful ad like this teach us, even if it's 50 years old? Targeting and profiling using demographics. Demographics refer to statistical, social, and economic characteristics like age, gender and sexual orientation, education, occupation, and income, race, ethnicity, and immigration status, geography, and region. Let's look at each one. Demographics. Age is the most important demographic characteristic that's used by Marcom planners. Reviewing the above list of categories and matching it with the information in your textbook, which generation do you belong to? How about your parents or your college professor? Nerf. Who's that guy on the box cover? Ads and packaging often reflect the cognitive age of the buyer. Nerf uses an older-looking model for a product that's targeted at 8 to 12-year-olds. Gender and sexual orientation. Women account for about 85% of all consumer purchases. Many brands are either masculine or feminine in terms of use. LGBTQ households have become more visible in the economy. They are consumers, employees, shareholders, entrepreneurs, and business decision makers. Education, occupation, and income. Education dictates the way promotional messages are written and a message's level of difficulty. Occupation is key because most people identify themselves by what they do. Income data from the 2011 census showed fewer people in the top third and more people in the bottom third. Advertisers are especially interested in consumers' discretionary income. Consider point 3 in the slide above. What economic and social trends does it indicate for our country? What implications does it have for Marcom planners attempting to create market profiles for members of the middle class? Race, ethnicity, and immigration status. In the U.S., ethnicity is a major segmentation factor. The U.S. is more multicultural than ever. Smart multicultural strategies recognize these trends, and differences in media use may be based on ethnicity. If you are on the Tide team, would you recommend using this ad in a Hispanic culture? Why or why not? Geography. Marketers use this strategy because retailers are often tied to locations where their products are sold. Media planners use designated market areas to describe certain media markets. Demographics. Religion. Religion is sometimes an important factor because of product bans. Some religions forbid certain products. Can you think of some examples from the news in which this has occurred? What does this possibility imply for advertisers? Targeting and profiling using psychographics. Psychographics refer to lifestyle and psychological characteristics, including activities, values, interests, attitudes, and opinions. How then does psychographics differ from demographics? Try to sum up your explanation in one sentence. Figure 7.6, lifestyle components. These include the person, the product, and the setting, and where it all comes together is the lifestyle. Products are linked to lifestyles in the way they reflect the interests of people and the settings in which the products are used. Principle. Often differences in consumer behavior lie in psychographics, consumer interests, and lifestyles, rather than in demographics. Targeting and profiling using psychographics. Considering the above information, how does an attitude differ from an opinion? Which one is more temporary or fleeting, the attitude or the opinion? Which one is more stable and permanent, the attitude or the opinion? Targeting and profiling using psychographics. Lifestyles. Lifestyles can be analyzed in terms of patterns of consumption, personal relationships, interests, and leisure activities. Lifestyles. Lifestyles are another insightful way for Marcom planners to view their target market profiles. Reviewing the above list of consumer groups and matching it with the information in your textbook, can you identify a group in which you belong? How about your parents or your best friend? For each person, how do you know? The VALS system categorizes consumers according to psychological traits. Thinkers and believers are motivated by ideals. Achievers and strivers are motivated by achievement. And experiencers and makers are motivated by self-expression. Socio-demographic segments. Socio-demographic segments refers to people in terms of when they were born. Reviewing your textbook, what kinds of people do you think these labels describe, and do they make sense to you? Figure 7.7, Prism Life Stage Groups Infographic. Socio-demographics at work for social cause. Force Human. This nonprofit organization is trying to reverse momentum in which society is destroying the planet. It is a spin on the Green Revolution, focusing on using yourself to power daily activities, but also the application of the mind to think differently. Trends and fads. Trends and fads are related to lifestyle and psychologic factors, and the fascination with choice in a consumer culture. Young people are particularly involved in trends. Trend spotters are researchers that identify trends affecting consumer behavior. Cool hunters specialize in identifying trendy fads that appeal to young people. Targeting and profiling using behavioral patterns. Brand usage and experiences. Two ways to classify usage. Usage rate, which is light, medium, or heavy, and brand relationship. Heavy users typically buy the most of a product category or a brand share of the market. Switchers have low levels of brand loyalty who may be willing to try a new brand. Think of the last time you encountered a new idea in your life and how it impacted you. Reviewing the definitions of the above adoption groups from your textbook, which one did you fall into? Is this consistent with your personality? Now consider how membership in that group might affect a major purchasing decision like a new cell phone or a hybrid vehicle. How willing would you be to try this new idea or product? Figure 7.8, the diffusion of innovation. Rogers' diffusion of innovation model shows the usual bell curve with data estimating the percentage of people in the standard adaptation categories. Seekers. Segmenting and targeting has evolved in recent years with social media and internet technology. The importance of word of mouth has increased. Companies are much more involved in listening and responding to consumers. We not only need to rethink targeting, but also the way consumers interact with brands. Figure 7.9 is the seeker model. This involves information, interaction, and entertainment and experiences. They all cross with the seeker. As a class, let's consider some ways in which we have all become seekers. How are you as a seeker in your own life as a consumer? Seekers search, share, and initiate marketing communication and brand relationships. They also are seeking pleasure, personal strokes, fellowship, and positive experiences. The seeker breed of consumer is personally independent but socially dependent, and the challenge for a brand planner is to figure out where the brand fits in the seeker's life. Looking ahead, new technologies enable marketers to create a more individually tailored experience for their customers. The stuff of consumer insight is uncovered through various research. These findings ultimately lead to brand communication strategies. We will first discuss methods of obtaining consumer insight, which we'll introduce in Chapter 8. It's a wrap, the beauty of a campaign. Now in its second decade, Dove's Real Beauty campaign has become an icon in the world of branding and integrated campaigns. What do you know about the Real Beauty campaign? What is its big idea, and what are some of the executions you have seen for the big idea? Think of the key lessons from this campaign, and what are they? How might these key lessons be applied to future branding and integrated campaigns for different kinds of products and services? Hey, thanks for watching. Please check out the other videos in this marketing series. Thanks again.